want you to be there. Oh, do you still care? I want you to be there. Oh, do you still care? I will be right here. Never have no fear. I will be right here. Never have no fear.
What's up, Peoria? Said Dockery here with another episode of the Randomest Vodcast in Peoria. Today we have our special guest, a local legend, Mike Rucker, who is an author, historian, trail preservationist, creationist. What else, Mike?
Oh, well, that's good enough.
That's
A few
good enough.
things.
Okay, so we're talking with Mike Rucker because one, we're interested in local authors. However, Mike has several special places in the hearts and minds of the folks in Peoria because Mike is like instrumental in a lot of children receiving higher education, right? You made sure that Springdale was clean and tidy and suitable to honor those who rest there. Um, and you make sure people stay fit. All right, I won't say your age. I won't say your age, but you're
Okay.
still running marathons.
Well, I haven't run one since COVID started, but maybe I'll do another one.
Maybe.
I've done 54.
54. How many of them have you won?
Age group wise, a few, maybe a dozen.
A dozen?
Yeah. But at my age, I'm getting slower, a lot slower.
I couldn't believe that if I wanted to.
Oh, of course you can.
I couldn't believe that. I mean, you still travel the country.
Oh, yeah. And overseas.
And overseas. you just came back and you're leaving again. Yeah? I mean, like, you're a globetrotter.
Thanks.
So, would you like to start our conversation to tell us a bit about your background, when and where, why you came to Peoria?
Well, I still consider myself a Virginian after being away from Virginia for 60 years. I was recruited by Caterpillar when I went to Virginia Tech and came to Peoria in March of 1963 and worked for Caterpillar for 40 years, retiring in 2003. And during that time, I lived in several different places, including St. Louis and Singapore for several years, and Melbourne, Australia for 4 years. And then, of course, I came back to Peoria and retired, as I say, in 2003. So, great career. I really, really had a wonderful time with my career at Caterpillar.
Good deal. Good deal. What is, about your experiences in Peoria, what stands out for you the most?
I think Peoria is a wonderful city. I intend to always stay here, but there's just so much to do. There's every possible activity. There's so much enthusiasm within the community about all the different things you can do, and you never run out of, shall I say, entertainment and activities here in Peoria. It's a wonderful city.
Yeah. What's your favorite place to go?
I would say Springdale Cemetery, which is where I'm the volunteer naturalist. They call me the steward. And we primarily take care of the natural areas there. The savanna, which is kind of unique, and also the volunteers and I help clean out the woodlands to make the scattering garden there, which is doing very well.
Good
So
deal.
yes, and also of course the trail, the Rock Island Greenway and the Rock Island State Trail. I am the chairman of the Trail Advocates for Central Illinois. So we're the people who help maintain the trails. We lobby and advocate for building new trails and bike lanes and pedestrian access. So yes, those two things, trails and Springdale Cemetery.
I mean, passion is what leads us to what we love anyway, right?
Right.
It's the best thing to have is a passion for something. You have a passion passion for a lot of things. That's pretty awesome. So graduating from Virginia Tech, was there any question you would be the guy you are now, or what was the process?
I had no idea where I was going to work. I interviewed some oil companies at the time and other manufacturers. But as soon as I got the offer from Caterpillar, I just accepted immediately. I was just so pleased with that, and it's been a great career.
Yeah, awesome. So, what was your career with Caterpillar?
I started as a service representative, which of course meant that I had to know about all the different machines, all the different engines, all the different systems on those machines and engines. Because as a service rep, you have to be able to troubleshoot the problems and work with the dealers and work with them on warranty and policy situations. So I started off knowing quite a bit about tractors and machines.
Good deal. So the early part of your career at Caterpillar led to what type? I mean, what's the career track for someone coming out of Virginia Tech with your studies and just landing in Caterpillar?
Well, first of all, at that point in time, excuse me, Caterpillar needed field representatives, service representatives, and sales reps, and so that's where I started. But then later, generally, people in those positions move into marketing positions and others within the organization. So it was a great track of things to do, different opportunities, and it was a really great experience.
Good deal. Good deal. So, as we mentioned earlier, I know you're involved in a lot of community activities. Would you care to discuss any of them?
Well, I've already mentioned the Trail Advocates, which we have a great group. We're actually now, it was formerly called Friends of the Rock Island Trail, but we do so much more than just the Rock Island Trail. So we work with a lot of different communities and a lot of different trails. So in order to gain some strength for the organization, we merged it with Bike Peoria. So we are a committee, in effect, of Bike Peoria, which is a very dynamic organization. They have the storefront on Main Street where they repair bikes and provide bikes for children, and of course it's a younger organization, shall we say, younger group than the Trail Advocates, because we were getting a bit older. So yes, so that was probably my activity I do the most with, but also involved with a program called Science Treasure Hunt for children. And this was to be the 33rd year for that. I headed it up from the beginning. And we did shut it down, though, when COVID struck, and now we've started back up again. But we used to have a little passport, a little booklet, where the students, the hunters, science hunters we call them, can go to different science sites all over the Tri-County and learn some science information. And then for those who complete the program, we give prizes to 100 children every year who've done all the different things. So they have to visit 10 different sites, 10 different science sites, and some of them are online, some of them are virtual. And so it's been a very popular program, and now it's online. And if people will go to sciencetreasurehunt.org, no spaces, sciencetreasurehunt.org, they will find out about it. We're getting ready to start that up again in early April. So it goes during the summer months, ends on Labor Day. So yes, I'm very pleased with that program.
Science Treasure Hunt. I actually found one of the passes that kids get from the Science Treasure Hunt to the museum. Is that still going to be a part of the program?
As of this year, the Peoria Riverfront Museum is taking ownership of the Science Treasure Hunt.
Nice.
It started at Lakeview Museum, and then when they shut down, we took it to the Peoria Academy of Science, and now we're turning it over to the Peoria Riverfront Museum, who have a lot of enthusiasm for it. I think they're going to make a real go of it.
Yeah, they've got a great team down there.
Yes, they do.
They've got a great team. So I can't get over the output, the writing output of Michael P. Rucker. Right? Where does this drive come from?
Well, I'll begin where it started. It started in Australia when we were living there, and my son was young.
Mm-hmm.
And every evening I would read to him, and then we would tell each other stories, make up stories. And so eventually, I started writing some of those stories down. And so I wrote three or four of the stories out while we lived there. And then I came back to Peoria,
Mm-hmm.
and I started trying to get the books published. And finally, after close to 10 years, I found a publisher in Huntington, West Virginia Books, who, who took the books, and I needed an illustrator. And I had three or four people, give sample illustrations, but West Virginia Books says we have an illustrator. It works for us, who I think would be perfect. And he lived in Florence, Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
His name was Bob Burchett, and so we started working together. And I never met him for 10 years. We worked together 10 years, 10 books together. And then Bradley University was having a book and paper fair,
Mm-hmm.
and they said, "Why don't you bring him here to introduce the 10th book and get some publicity for that?" So we did. So that's how it all happened, and now I have 18,
Children's
18
books.
Terry Attractive books,
Nice.
all on a different subject. And then I finished up with a coloring and activity book. And every one of the books has a different subject. And what I try to do is teach the kids a little bit about the world of work, as I
Mm-hmm.
call it, and also about just living and about tractors, of course, and about engines.
Mm-hmm.
So each one I try to have a bit of a story that children up to about 10 years of age would like. So some of them, well, here's one that's on the screen now. It's Terry and the Dinosaurs, and it's turned out to be the most popular book because kids like dinosaurs and kids like tractors. And as far as I know, this is the only book that has both in the same book. so, so that's turned out to be a popular. In fact, I'm now having to reprint that because it is virtually out of print. It's been
Wow.
very popular.
Nice.
So that's Terry Attractive Books, and it's been a lot of fun. I was doing one a year,
Mm-hmm.
literally one a year. That was my goal for 18 years, to put out a new book every year. And I think at this point in time we have enough Terry Attractive books. I could turn out some more, but
I don't think anyone else has said that but you. I don't think anyone else has said that but you. I've there's a ton of those books at the house.
mm,
And we've actually run out of books here at the studio because when people bring their kids, they either get a coloring book or they get one of your books. They're actually able to pick.
good.
And the kids look at the artwork, and that's how they decide what book they grab out of their drawer out
That's
there.
true. And there's another thing I should mention as far as activity, and that's a program called Look, It's My Book.
Mm-hmm.
And Look, It's My Book is now, I think it's 10 or 12 years in progress, and it involves every grade school in
Mm-hmm.
District 150 from kindergarten through fourth grade. And we give books to them 4 times a year. The books are chosen by the students.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I use the Terry Attractor books. I go there with the Terry Attractor books and provide some of those. And then sometimes I'll read to the children in the classrooms and all that. But it's a great program and has given out thousands and thousands of books to the students in District 150, and has greatly improved the reading scores
Mm-hmm.
of those students.
Good deal. I thank you for the service. You mentioned, when I asked the question, you mentioned the struggles you had with finding a publisher. And now your son and granddaughter are streamlining that for people with StoryForge. Have you checked out StoryForge at all?
Well, they have not yet gone public. They've not yet announced it, but yes, they are working on a program, and it is to be called Story Forge.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, I think it's going to be a good program, and hopefully it'll be successful.
I think it will. They've got
Good.
brains. Those are some sharp folks. I call them with my problems, so I know they won't have any problems at all. I'm sure of it. And so, which is your favorite book out of what you've written?
Well, as far as the Terry Gatractor books, the most popular one I think is Terry and the Bully,
Mm-hmm.
and it's about how Terry handles being bullied and what he does, to try to, get along with the bully, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of like that one, and it's very popular being read to children in schools, so I do that fairly often.
Good deal. Okay, so if you're interested in purchasing any of the books by Mike Rucker, you can find them at MikeRuckerBooks.com. That's pretty
Correct.
straightforward. Mike Rucker Book. That's 26 books in print, right? Terry the Tractor, that's a lot. When I called you about this, no, I showed up in your kitchen. We were talking about your books, and I asked you about Bridge Burner and the Meanest, Damnedest Job. How do we get these books written?
Well, they are Civil War books, and I went to high school in Fredericksburg, Virginia, which is 50 miles from Washington, D.C., and 50 miles to the south to Richmond.
Mm-hmm.
And there were more Civil War battles and activities in that area than any other part of the country. So my brother, Henry, who was 2 years older than me, he started a tour guide service of the area,
Mm-hmm.
which is not just Civil War, but it's also Washington's boyhood home is across the river. James Monroe was from there, and many, many other activities. So we started this tour guide business, but that really got me interested in the Civil War. So all those years since then, since high school, I've read a lot of Civil War books, done a lot of Civil War research, and finally decided to write about two different Civil War officers. One is a Confederate officer, and one is a Union officer. The Union officer was a kind of a strange individual in that he was a Virginian. He was a slaveholder,
Mm-hmm.
but he became a Union officer. And I call it bridge burner because he started his career with the Civil War as a civilian, leading the Union Army to burn bridges, important bridges,
Mm-hmm.
in their campaign. So he turned out to be really quite an interesting character. So I wrote about him, and it's been very popular. The other is a Confederate officer, and the book is called "The Meanest and Damnedest Job," which deserves some explanation, I think. After some very significant activity in his career in the war, he was assigned to Eastern Tennessee,
Mm-hmm.
and that part of the country was very much in favor of the Confederates. But he was as a Confederate. Sorry, he was very much in favor of the Union.
Mm-hmm.
They even tried to secede from Tennessee in order to join the Union there in East Tennessee. But this officer his job was to recruit from the local people and to punish those who were causing problems for the Confederacy by burning bridges and sniping and all that. So he called it the meanest and damnedest job a soldier ever had to do. So we took that as a title. So this individual ended up being a very major founder of Birmingham. So he's got a lot of things happening for him and very interesting character as well. So I enjoyed writing that book too.
Hmm.
I've got two other children's books that I'd like to mention. One is about a place in Florida called Cedar Key, and it's about a bunch of animals in the Cedar Key scrub who try to stop the humans from destroying their homeland, so to speak. They were cutting trees and causing all kind of problems. So they went to work and tried to stop that and caused a few problems of their own. And then, lastly, I want to mention a book called The Rude City, which is in support of the program by Carl Cannon, who worked with children. Probably can't see that, but Carl Cannon is very well known in Peoria and worked with children to improve their chances of success. And his program is called the Elite Program. And he has a series of elite words, that children should use instead of bad words. So that's really what this book is all about, is trying to get the children to be more polite and to do a better job of getting along with themselves and others.
Good deal.
So those are pretty much my books, and it's been so much fun to write. I'm always writing something, articles or books or something, and yes.
Well, you know what? I've been an admirer. Excuse my inability to speak. Of yours as a writer since I found out that you were a writer. Right, walking into your dining area and seeing all of those books, all of the notes, right? And I'm asking myself, how does someone stay so organized to be able to bang this stuff out, right? And then I want to know, why do you stand up and work? Why do you stand up writing?
Why do I stand at my computer, you mean?
Yeah.
Because standing is more healthful than sitting.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, I sit down, when I read or whatever. But standing up at the computer is a good thing to do. It's healthful.
Good deal. I believe you. I mean, seriously. As I was telling our associate earlier, I hope that when I hit your age, I'm still standing upright, still have the energy to get up as early as you do, and run. Right? I hope that I still have the fortitude that you have at this age.
Well, I'm only 82 after all.
Congratulations, young man. Congratulations. Okay, so we've talked about, 24 books I'm counting. We've discussed 24 books so far. Let's talk about the number 26 book. You've written a memoir, and the title alone, when I was handed the book, I was like, what's the significance, right? What does it mean when you're saying what doesn't kill me?
Well, I wrote this because of my granddaughters. I have 3 granddaughters, very, very active and involved young ladies. And they kept saying, Grandpa, you have so many great stories. Why don't you write them down? Why don't you make a book? So I finally did. And I found that this was a lot of fun. So starting all the way from my very early childhood, I wrote about my involvement, my activities, all the different things I've done. And then, of course, as I got into it, other family members said, why don't you include this? Why don't you include this experience that I had? And so I included some of those. So it turned out to be a good book. It's not one that I really expect to sell. It's not the purpose of it. Like these others I sell. It is on my website if people want to buy it. I've only sold a few. But it's just been so much fun to write about, and I get a lot of feedback. I get more feedback from this book, What Doesn't Kill Me, than any other book that I've written. People say, well, you had quite a childhood, quite a life all the way through. And of course, I take it all the way through my career with Caterpillar. Then I include a lot of running stories. I used to write a monthly article for the River Boogie Striders, Illinois Valley Striders, and I put some of those stories in too. just about, the experience of doing different marathons and different races because they're always an adventure. That's what running's all about. Running is like everything else. It's an adventure. It's to get out and do something and have fun. I ran the Barney Blitz 5K just last Saturday, 2 days ago, and it was a lot of fun. But I was so slow compared to the way I used to be, but it's still fun, and so I really enjoy running.
That's still the objective, though, to go out, enjoy the air,
Right.
enjoy the
Right.
atmosphere, the run
Right.
itself.
And it's not so much about getting a trophy these days. It's getting out and involved with friends who are also runners, and so yes.
I actually miss running. My knees don't, but I do.
Oh,
So, all in all, Mike Rucker has had, would you call it a fulfilling life?
oh yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah. And I've got more to do.
I would imagine. I would imagine. I mean, your schedule. I don't see any gaps in your schedule
Nope.
whatsoever. All right, that's a guy who plans on continuing to put in good work. So here's the part in an other show that we do here, where we talk to the people that other people in our city find to be important, right? And we ask certain questions to really nail down what Peoria really is to us, right? You have to really live here to understand Peoria and what it means to the people that live here. So I will ask you, in your own words, when you hear Peoria life, what does Peoria life mean to you?
Well, I think it's a very exciting place to live. There's always something happening, and just so many activities. Anything that you might think of, from great museums to theaters, Cornstalk and Peoria Players, to, of course, the symphony, one of the greatest symphonies in the country, I believe, as well as, of course, you've got opera that comes, you've got ballet, great ballet company. So Peoria has just everything that a person could want when they're living in any kind of urban environment. So there's never a shortage of exciting things here.
Okay, now that we've done that, I want to get to what's really important to me: children and education. There are two hands full of children born and raised in this city who get to go to college should they choose because Mike Rucker is that benevolent. What made you decide to fund these children's education?
Well, quite frankly, I'm not really wealthy, but when I have more money than I really need, then I try to provide it to places that will help. And I think that one of the most important places is to help children, help young students go to college. College is so important in terms of their success in life, in terms of their income, in terms of just what they accomplish. So that's what's in my mind. College admissions and college graduation has gone down the last several years with the COVID situation. So we need to improve that and encourage students to go to college, but they're also worried about the debt that they may incur, by going to college, because it's just too expensive. I mean, there's no help here in this country from the government of any significance to help them go to college. So that's why I'm interested in children getting a good basic education, and I think that District 150 does a good job with that. But then ICC is a great place to start. I helped several students get started at ICC. And then, of course, if we want to stay local, Bradley is a really good school, great school, and well supported by Caterpillar, of course, because of the engineering program there. So, and of course, within Illinois, you've got a lot of other really great state schools and private schools as well.
Good deal. I just look at it and I'm amazed. I'm really amazed. You meet people who do good things, right? And then you meet people who do great things. For me, sports, you can be a great athlete and not really mean anything to the world. right? But to actually, make your mind up to ensure that children have the choice of what their future could look like. I think that's one of the greatest things a human being could do. So I thank you.
Thank
I
you.
thank you.
Well, I think sports are important because they increase self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
But the students have to go beyond that. I'm not talking about high school students. They can't just rely on, well, I was a great basketball player or baseball, football, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
In high school, they've got to, that ends as soon as they graduate from high school. So
Yeah.
what happens next?
Mm-hmm.
So they need to have a plan. Um, I read an article one time which still sticks in my mind, titled "How Sports Saves Girls."
Mm.
And it's about the fact that girls who participate in sports in high school primarily do much better than others. They get better grades. They have better self-esteem. They get, in the long run, better jobs. So I think sports are extremely important, but they shouldn't replace, academics.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I do truly, truly agree. Um, Back to these scholarships. Some people would think, well, this guy's made money, it's a tax dodge or whatever. However, I've been to events where you're the lead, right? And the way you lead events is different from any event I've ever been to, right? There's poetry, there's jokes, right? Going around the table, read or recite your favorite poem, or let's read one of these poems we have here printed in case you show up to a Mike Rucker event unprepared. But this is how you raised your family around the words, right? Let's stimulate each other around the table with words. Where does that come from?
Well, it's just so much fun to do. And we were talking about helping students, helping high school students prepare for college.
Mm-hmm.
What I've done, and not a lot, but quite a number of 529 accounts,
Mm-hmm.
college savings plan 529 accounts. And what a person can do for their own student, their own family, children, or those within their community or wherever. If you help a family get started with a 529 college savings plan, it's tax exempt, and then when the student starts needing those funds for college, the funds can come out tax exempt.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really great program, and so I would urge anybody who has the means, to just put a bit of money into a 529 savings account. You'll be amazed at how it will grow and how much that's going to mean to that student eventually.
Yeah. If you haven't looked at 529s, you're going to see a bunch of them, but the one I'm not recommending, but the one I've seen doing some great performing even lately has been Bright Smiles. That's a great one. So 26 books. I don't know how many marathons, right? Advocating for people's recreation, advocating for people's resting places. I mean, like, what's next?
Well, I'll keep doing what I'm doing as long as I can. Actually, I have too many activities. I really need to kind of slow down and get out of some of them, so to speak, which is why I'm hoping that the Peoria Riverfront Museum can take some of the load off of the science treasure hunt.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I'm the chairperson, the race director for the Peoria Riverfront Museum 5K race, which happens on March 25th this year,
Oh, wow.
which is called the Interplanetary 5K race. And we've done this now for 20-some years. I've been the race director for that all those years. And so that's coming off in just a week and a half from now. So, yeah, I still like to be involved in all kinds of things, but sometimes I get a little bit overloaded, so to speak.
I can imagine. I can imagine. Okay, so here we've really talked with Mike Rucker. If you understand treasures in Peoria, we have one sitting here with us. Again,
Thank you.
thanks, Mike. I'm glad you're in Peoria. I'm glad you're representing our city everywhere you go.
Thank you.
All right. I'm glad you're paying attention to our children and providing access for them. Um, I'm going to leave the microphone to Mike. All right. um, MikeRuckerBooks.com. If you're interested in any of his books, I hope you buy at least one or two of these books and send them to your kids' teachers, right? Or drop them off at the church or something. But Mike, here's your chance for any parting words, or if you want to cuss somebody out if you want. I'm kidding.
Okay,
I'm
no.
kidding.
Well, I think that we pretty well covered everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think the most important thing I'd say is to everybody is get involved in the community. Get out there and do something. The great proportion of people do not volunteer. I think that we should be a nation of volunteers. There's always so much out there to be done. And so if people would just think about what interests them, what would cause them to enjoy doing things with other people, and just get out there and volunteer. So that's my closing remarks.
Good deal. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Rucker, our guest today on the Randomest Vodcast in Peoria. I'm Zed. We'll catch up with you guys next time. Thanks for watching.
Thank you so much. It's been fun.